So today I'm going to talk about computer use, which is a tool that I've been meaning to try for a while. And it's basically the combination of LLMs, or in this case, multimodal language models, and you basically gave them access to your computer. So they can control the mouse, they can control the keyboard, and the idea is that you give them instructions through a prompt, kind of like with regular LLMs, and they can just go ahead and accomplish these tasks. And I was thinking, what would be a fun thing to see how good these things actually are? And I recently was remembered of this password game, which is really frustrating and kind of, in my opinion, describes the best use case of the thing that an LLM might struggle with. So it's supposed to be absurd. You're supposed to create a password, and every time you create a password, there's all sorts of different rules that pop up. So here, your password must be at least 5 characters, which is satisfied, but then it says your password must include a number. You add a number, but then it says your password must include an uppercase and lowercase. And it starts getting increasingly harder and harder. So here, for example, I would add this, and then a special character, so I might add this. And you can see how things just start getting out of control quickly, because now I have the 1 here, so that doesn't work. So now must add up to 25, right? So you have to start doing all of this kind of crazy arithmetic to get these things right. And the reason why I think it would be really interesting to get an LLM to solve this is because, apart from a few YouTube videos where people go through all sorts of crazy lengths to solve this, I don't think this is really out there in terms of like the optimal strategies to solve this game. And there's also a lot of visual cues. So basically, all of these rules would have to be inferred through the screenshot. The thing has to click. At some point, you have these eggs that start catching on fire, and you have to be, pretty quick on the trigger to try to get this password to work. So personally, I don't think that multimodal language models are nearly good enough yet to be able to win at this game. But I kind of want to just get a sense as to how good these things actually are and how they work. So for today, we're really going to be focusing on computer use, which was released a few weeks ago by Anthropic. And it's kind of this really neat thing where they wrapped it all up in an interface where this thing can basically take screenshots and decide to do actions. And they give us some tooling to get started with it relatively easily. Of course, these big warnings here. It's a beta feature. There are all sorts of risks, etc. So one of the things that they really highly recommend is to use a dedicated virtual machine with minimal privileges. So they package it as a Docker container such that, if anyone could inject some malicious prompt somewhere, it doesn't go rogue and start messing around with your machine. So to get started, they give us access to a GitHub example through a Docker container. So let's just kind of fire it up and see what happens. So first thing that we would have to do is clone this repository. So let's go ahead and clone this thing. So clone this into their quick starts, go into the quick start, and we see here computer use demo. So go into this computer use demo. And if we read the doc relatively quickly, you go through it. This is kind of what we're interested in running here. So you have to set your API key, which you might already have set as an environment variable. That's what I have. And then here it's going to run the Docker container, which is the Docker file is contained over here, how they build it. And so let's just go ahead and do that. So here, and then I'm just going to go and replace this with my actual Anthropic API key, which I already have as an environment variable. So you run this. The first time you run it, it's going to have to go and download the actual container. So it might take a while to build the container. I already built it in the past, so it should have it cached, and it should be relatively quick to boot up, maybe a few seconds. And then we'll be able to kind of see what happens once it gets started. So you can see there's all sorts of things happening here. And there we go. Computer use is ready. You can now open it so you see it's running on localhost. So let's go ahead and open this up. And you start noticing already a few things. So first of all, you can choose your API provider. We're going to go straight through Anthropic. You can choose which models you want to use, but also you can see here it kind of has its own virtual workspace. So this looks kind of like some form of Linux machine. There's LibreOffice here, there's a terminal, there's Firefox browser, there's a calculator. So this is kind of the thing that it has access to. And here is where we can interact and chat with it. And one interesting thing that I've noticed is that it looks like it's built using Streamlit. So that means that this is all relatively easily hackable if you're familiar with Python. So you can go ahead and kind of mess around with it. There are a few options that are available to us here. So we could put some system prompts. You can decide how many and most recent images you want to be sending back and forth. I recommend to set this to 1 because otherwise you quickly bust through the limits. Okay, so now let's kind of fire this up and tell this thing what to do. So we're going to tell it to go to this website. So I'm just going to copy the website here and go to this website and follow the instructions to generate a password that meets all the requirements. Hit enter, and now you just see it just starts thinking, and we're kind of going to go see what it does. So it has a bunch of tools it can decide to take from. The first thing it decides to do is to take a screenshot. So it takes a screenshot, decides it wants to open the Firefox browser, which is like honestly kind of magical. This thing just sort of takes over the computer, goes to Firefox, takes another screenshot, see that it actually opened Firefox. Now it's going to go and move the mouse, puts it in it's just really fun to see this thing go. Okay, so it managed to open the password game, and now it has to kind of figure out what to do. So it got the screenshot right over here, and now it says, okay, I'm on the password game, let me click. So it clicks, left click, puts in a password, and now you can see it's already starting to see some errors, right? Well, I guess it hasn't seen it yet because it didn't take the screenshot. So here we get the screenshot, and now it's starting to figure out all of these different rules, right? So here it decides to add password 97943. Now that's not going to work, right? So maybe it's going to realize now that something's going wrong. Let's give it a second or so to see what it decides to do now based on that. Kind of looks like it's stuck, though here it still says that things are running. Maybe it might be a little bit slow on the network. You know, images are a bit harder to parse on the model side, but it could also be that it kind of tripped out, and we might have to try again, have it start again. What's happening? Let's see if I can interact with it. So clearly already this is a pretty challenging task for a language model. Oh, okay, so now it kind of knows what's happening. Let me start fresh by clearing the text box and trying again. Yes, continue. Try again. So it's kind of cool. It has some concept of error correcting while it's in there. Let's see if it can actually fix this up. All right, so it's moving the mouse now. What's it going to do next? It seems like it's a bit slow sometimes, and I wonder what might be slow about this. I mean, I really doubt that it would be my internet connection. Okay, so here it goes now, starts clicking things, Control A, all right. So basically cleared all the text, and now it's going to try doing this all over again. Let's see if it could do a better guess this time around. Funny that it did Control A and delete here to kind of get this. Okay, so now it starts another password. My password is 7999. Probably trying to get that to sum to 25 right now, but that didn't even work. And now it's being told you have to include a month of the year. So let's see how many rules can it actually get through before this thing just flips the table and gives up. I wonder why the latency is so slow sometimes. Like it seems like sometimes it's pretty quick and other times it's pretty slow. So here you see I had the 25, 7 plus 9 plus 9. But then for some reason it added an extra 9 here. But we have the instructions of what it wanted to type. So yeah, it's still kind of tripping itself out sometimes. I'm not sure why it decided to add this extra 9 because it kind of had it proper before. But yeah, now it still seems like it's tripped up again. Okay, so there's maybe something else I want to try, which it seems like I can toggle and take over. I don't know what this actually does. Does it start it over? No. All right, so maybe now I can kind of help it out here. Erase that 9. All right, let's tell it to continue. Okay, it's trying other things now. I'm going to disable the screen control. Let it keep on going. All right, it's trying other things now. It seems like there's like some kind of weird latency going on. Maybe I could check the logs. No, the logs don't really show anything. Okay, but it's able to include a sponsor, so that's cool. It got the Pepsi, so that's really cool. It was able to actually recognize that it had to put in the Pepsi in there. So that's another thing, right? I just in this one example right now, we just hit the rate limit, which kind of sucks. Which means that like basically this is not ready for any kind of real world use case. I mean, I have a pretty standard developer account. I've been using Anthropic for some time now. I'm privy to the same limits as most devs. I mean, I don't have thousands of dollars worth of APIs, but you see here it tells you you've been rate limited, retry after, I guess it's 1 minute, 22 seconds. So, and with that, I had really dialed this down. Looks like it's not quite there yet. But anyway, I mean, I think this is a really good test for multimodal LLMs for two reasons. I mean, one is it just keeps on getting harder and harder. It kind of matches the real world, what you'd expect, just rules that are completely arbitrary and sometimes really stupid, that you just as humans have to follow when you're going through guides and all these different things on all sorts of websites. So, yeah, anyway, I think this could make for a good benchmark. Maybe I'll try adapting some other LLMs to this thing. It is really nice that this just comes out of the box. It just starts interacting with things. So that's really cool. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this and let me know what you think.